Hello everyone. In the previous video we have seen a few basics of the form tag. In this video we are going to learn about a few other elements of the form tag. These elements are label, text area and select. So talking about the first element, the label element, this basically defines a label for multiple other form elements. It is usually useful for screen reader users. It also helps users who have difficulty clicking on very small regions such as radio buttons or checkboxes. So when the user clicks on the text box, on the text within the label element, it toggles the radio button or the checkbox which is associated with it. What exactly do we mean by this? Let's see an example. So in this form over here, you have these three checkboxes written or developed. Now, say for example, I am working on a mobile view. I am opening a form in my mobile phone. What happens is that these checkboxes appear even smaller. So one option is that you either zoom in on the checkboxes or you click on the text associated with the checkbox. Now, what do I mean by this? So when I click on this text written over here, singing, what it does is it toggles the checkbox associated with that particular text. This is exactly what your label will help you achieve. Now, for achieving that or for achieving this particular characteristic, what the attribute that it provides you with is the for attribute. This for attribute is basically used along with the ID of the input element with which you want to relate it with. So the for is always going to have the ID of the input element that you are trying to develop this label for. So let's quickly see an example. Let's implement this in an example. Let's say we are developing hobbies again. A checkbox list for hobbies. So we create our checkbox and we assign an ID. Now this ID is going to develop a unique ID for this checkbox. And now we use our label tag. So in the label tag, like I just mentioned, we'll have to make use of the for attribute in order to associate the checkbox with my label. So the values are supposed to be the same. You have to be a little careful about this. Right, so that's my first label. I'll add a break tag here because I want it to be displayed on different lines. I change the ID again and I'll change the content here. Next, again we'll change the value and we'll write it here. Let's save this form and let's execute it. Okay, so now you can see your checkboxes have been created. Now let's just try clicking on the text. So your checkbox has been toggled. We click on the next text, click on the next text, our checkboxes are getting toggled. So that's how you achieve this phenomenon. Now talking about the next element, that's your text area element. Now we in the previous example or in the previous video have seen how to create a single line text box. That is what we usually deal with. Now there are instances where I may want to take feedback from the customers or from the users, or I may want to take the address from the user. In this case, the text box should be a little bigger. It should not be a single line text box. It should be a multi-line text box. So text area is that element which will allow you to create a multi-line text box, for which you will need a few attributes. The first one is name, the second one is rows, and the third one is calls. The name is obviously going to assign a unique name to your text box. Rows is used when you want to increase the height of the text box. So here the value is going to be a numerical value. You can assign any value that you want to over here, any number that you want to assign. The next value is calls, which is responsible to increase the width of your text box. So you can again assign some numerical value to this particular attribute. Let's try implementing this in our example. Now, Always remember, text area is a container tag, therefore you will have to close the tag at the end. Now let's assign some name to this. Let's say the name is T1. The rows value I am going to assign as 10, and the calls value I'm going to assign as 20, and then I'll close this text area. You don't have to write any content in between. Let's save this and let's try executing this on our page. Okay, so that's your text area. Now this looks quite big in size. If you want, you can reduce the height of the text area. What you just have to do is you have to go back to your code and reduce the number of rows. Let's say I assign this as 5. I go back here and I refresh the page, and that's how your height of the text box has been reduced. That was with the second element. Let's see the third element now. The third element is the select element, which is a very important element when we talk about forms. Now, what does the select element allow us to do? It allows us to display our content in the form of a drop-down list. What do we mean by drop-down list is what we'll see short in a little time. So now for doing this we need the select tag, of course, but the select tag will not work alone. It does not work individually. It needs support tag, which is the option tag. Now this option tag defines an option that can be selected. Let's implement this and then we'll see individual attributes one by one. So let's write the select tag. Select is also again a container tag, therefore we'll need the closing attribute. Next, we'll start off with our option. Now I want the semester to be displayed over here. So my options are going to have all the different semesters. Right, so I'll just copy paste this. So now our drop down list has been created. Let's go to our web page and see how does it look like. Right, so that's your drop down list. You can see that the first option has been selected by default. You can select whichever option that you want to. That's what you mean by a drop down list, which means whenever that you are clicking on this arrow over here, it is giving you a list below. Now what if I want to make a default selection? Like I said, that the first option is always going to be the default selected option, but if I don't want that option to be selected by default, what I'll have to do is I'll have to go to that option which I want to be selected before I load my page, or as soon as I load my page. I'll have to go to that option and just write the word selected. Right? So can you see your selection has now changed? It is not showing semester 1 anymore as the default selected value. The next thing is the size of the drop down list, or the size of your list. This can be achieved using the size attribute. Now since this is talking about the entire list, we will use the size attribute inside the select tag. Now this size attribute is going to basically allow me to display multiple list items together. So it is up to me what value do I want to assign. Of course it is supposed to be a numeric value. So if I write the value 2 over here, it is going to show 2 options or 2 list items at a time on the list. Okay, so now your drop down list has now been changed into a list box. You can see 2 list items at a time. And of course, again, your default selection is still semester 2. Now this was with the size of the selection or the drop down list and the default selection of the drop down list. The third thing that you may need to do is that you may want your user to select multiple values or multiple options inside the list. So for doing that, you go back to your code and again write just one word in your select tag. That word is the multiple tag. the multiple attribute. Let's go here and refresh our page. Now, in order to select your multiple values, you just have to press a control and click on the second value. Now, as you can see, you can select multiple different values in this. In the previous case, you could select only one value. So that's how your label, your text area, and your select element works. Hope you've understood everything that I have explained. Thank you.